I believe that MANTA is a hidden gem, even though nothing I say is financial advice nor a guarantee, but going to the price of $20 during this bull run, that right there wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And why do I think MANTA could do that during this bull run? Let's say hypothetically. The reason for that is because I believe that the MANTA network, man, it's very special. After all, the MANTA network consists of two networks, right? The first is, of course, something called MANTA Pacific. Now, more specifically, it's even been stated that when it comes to, again, MANTA Pacific, it's the modular layer 2 ecosystem on Ethereum for Ethereum virtual machine native ZK applications. Now, this may sound very complicated, but let's break this down because, first of all, I do want to discuss the ZK aspect of this. Now, ZK stands for zero knowledge. Now, you may be thinking, okay, what's the benefit of something like this? For instance, right, the benefit of something like, again, ZK technology is, for instance, enhanced scalability and as well as enhanced privacy. So yeah, that's very fantastic. Nowadays, we want things to be scalable. Also on top of that, we, of course, highly value something like privacy. So I think this right here is very crucial. Now, the second aspect I want to talk about when it comes to this is the layer 2 aspect, because sometimes people like to think that, okay, there's too many layer 2s out there. It's complete trash. It's complete caca, all this type of stuff. But here's the thing. I think a layer 2 does play a very vital role because you take a look at Ethereum. Despite its massive size, despite its ecosystem, despite its fans and hype, whatever, right? It still has its limitations, which is actually kind of caca if you think about it, because it has sky-high gas fees and also scalability is often noted as a very big issue. Now, what is the solution for this? That's through a layer 2, like for instance, right? So this right here is amazing. It quite essentially allows Ethereum to be enjoyed, but at the same time not having to deal with a lot of the previous nonsense that I mentioned. So yeah, that's how amazing it is. So when people like to say that, oh, MANTA Pacific, it's trash, all this type of stuff, well, no, I think it does play a very vital role. I think it's very amazing. So yeah, I don't think it's bad at all. At least that's the way I'd take a look at it. And now with that out of the way, right, we take a look at the second aspect of the MANTA network, and that right there is called MANTA Atlantic. And this right here is allegedly the fastest, again, ZK, zero knowledge, layer 1 chain on Polkadot. Now, we all know that, at least those who've been watching my videos, that Polkadot is a very amazing project. In my opinion, I'm very bullish on it. Now, to get into some idea as to why, MANTA Atlantic is so fantastic, I think we have to understand just how special Polkadot is, because Polkadot, it's focused on interoperability. Now, as of right now, a lot of blockchains, or should I say a lot of networks out there, they often lack interoperability. What do I mean by that? They don't have the ability to freely interact with one another. They can't freely send data and value again to each other, meaning that, again, they often lack interoperability. Now, of course, what is the solution for this? Something like Polkadot. They're focused on connecting blockchains together. So again, when you take a look at MANTA Atlantic and its connections with Polkadot, allegedly, again, the fastest layer 1 zero knowledge chain on Polkadot, that right there, I think, is really fantastic, because Polkadot is actually looking to solve real world problems. And also, when you take a look at this again, right, MANTA Atlantic being quite essentially the fastest on Polkadot in terms of ZK layer 1 chains, that's amazing in my opinion. I think sometimes people don't take this into consideration, but hey, it is what it is. At least that's the way I view it. But personally for me, I take a look at fundamentals. So yeah, I know stuff like this. But even besides that point, on the MANTA network, there's currently over 250 projects, which is fantastic. Also on top of that, current total value locked is hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars. So yeah, that's amazing. Not to mention, on its ecosystem, there are projects related to DeFi, aka decentralized finance, gaming, and as well as the metaverse. And are these three markets like the most poppin', markets out there? No. Granted, a lot of the hype did kind of disappear. But in my opinion, it's still pretty amazing nonetheless. I think it's a step in the right direction, and it shows how there's a good diversity of projects as well. So I really like that when it comes to MANTA. Now, not to mention, even though I don't think this is like a key part of like MANTA overall, there is something called the Calamari network. And before I get into this, I think it's pretty cool how when it comes to MANTA, it kind of has this like ocean theme, right? MANTA, of course, like a manta ray. We take a look at MANTA Pacific, MANTA Atlantic, like the name of oceans, right? Atlantic, Pacific. And also in this case, we take a look at calamari. I mean, it's like something we eat, right? Basically. It's kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, even besides that point, the Calamari network is quite essentially a canary network to the MANTA network. Now, some people may think, okay, what does this even mean? A canary network? Caralho, porra. Now, here's the thing, right? just to give an example as to what something like this is, we take a look at, for instance, something like Kusama and Polkadot, right? Kusama is quite essentially a canary network to Polkadot. Now, what do I mean by this? Again, right? Usually, projects that wish to launch on Polkadot, they typically launch on Kusama first as a way to test out the project under real economic conditions. And again, right, after the project has been, quite essentially good to go, they then usually move on to Polkadot. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to do that because, for instance, you take a look at something like Moonriver, that's on Kusama. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that every project has to move on to Polkadot. Now, why is a canary network so beneficial in this sense? Because if, let's say, a new project wants to launch on Polkadot, they may not have the resources, they also may not have the capabilities to directly do that. And also, this is kind of like testing out the water, so to speak. It's like before we buy a car, we usually do a test drive, right? Why not? It's to test out the car, see if we like it. The way you take a look at a canary network is that it's basically like a test drive. You know what I mean? To see if you like the car, then maybe if you do, you can lease it, buy it, whatever the case may be. So when it comes to these projects, they launch on Kusama. And also another added bonus is the fact that it's far easier to rent building space on, Kusama, meaning that it's cheaper. And also on top of that, it's far easier to make changes on Kusama as well when compared to Polkadot. So that's amazing. So when you take a look at a canary network, it does play a very vital role. It's quite essentially a testing ground, if that makes sense. So when you take a look at the Calamari network, isn't that kind of amazing? Again, it's a canary network to MANTA network. This is how amazing it is. So when you take a look at MANTA overall, it's pretty much the complete package. It has many amazing components. Now, personally speaking, again, am I most definitely bullish on Calamari, all this type of stuff? No. I like to order that in restaurants, but I'm not bullish on this one. What I'm bullish on this one is the MANTA network, if that makes sense, because that's the real McCoy, if that makes sense, right? It's like the real deal. Non-financial advice, but that's just the way I view it. Now, some people may think that, okay, $20 is this random, crazy nonsense thing, but no, I disagree. With all that taken into consideration, why not? And it's not like the market cap would be crazy anyways. Considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $8 billion. I mean, is that too crazy? We've seen Dogecoin reach over $80 billion in market cap. This is insane. This is like nothing, really. I mean, we've seen like Shiba Inu practically 5x this. I'm not joking, by the way. Shiba Inu at one point reached around $40 billion in market cap back in 2021. This is like peanuts, really, in the grand scheme of things. I don't think it's too much to ask for. So when people say that, oh yeah, MANTA is crazy, all this type of stuff, if MANTA needed to go to like a $500 billion market cap or like a $50 billion market cap to go to the price of $20, I totally understand that. That's insane. But again, around an $8 billion market cap, it's not crazy. And keep in mind, that's around a 27x from here. It's not like it's only like a 3x or something. No, that's not the case, right? And some people out there, they like to say that, yeah, MANTA sucks, all this type of stuff. I can name like 4 things straight off the bat that I know for a fact are not going to do over like a 25x during this bull run. At least in my opinion, hypothetically, because you take a look at Bitcoin, that's not going to do over a 25x during this bull run from this point on, right? From what it is right now. It's not going to do that. Ethereum's not going to do that as well. Solana, BNB, that's 4 right there. I know for a fact they're not going to do over like a 25x from the point where they are right now during this bull run. I just don't think so. I think that's out of the question, really. I mean, they're just too established. But when it comes to MANTA, the amazing thing about it is that the potential upside is still there, hypothetically, in my opinion. But then it's not that risky because it's not like this super tiny, like small cap, like project that we don't really know is going to survive or not. Are there other projects out there that could very well like defeat MANTA in terms of percentage increase during this bull run? I think so, because there are many micro caps out there that could very well do well. We just never really know, right? But it's pretty difficult. It's very risky to find the correct one, so to speak. A lot of people, they go into like 50 micro caps, and maybe in some cases they don't even get one. So we don't really know, right? But the amazing thing about MANTA is that potential upside feels not bad, in my opinion. Again, around the 27x to go to the price of $20. But then on the flip side, the risk doesn't feel too crazy because it's not like this tiny unproven project, if that makes sense. Again, that's why we like MANTA. It kind of has that unique point where it's not too established to the point that it can't really grow, but then it's not too low either to the point that it's very risky. At least that's the way I view it. And it's not like this bull run is going to be bad or anything like that. There's currently over 600 million crypto owners, according to Crypto.com research. That's more than ever before in history. Also, you take a look at the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, and also the amount of institutional investors and enterprise adoption is just through the roof. So with all those amazing factors, as Bitcoin goes to the price of, let's say, $150,000, could you imagine what happens to altcoins then? Really, at that point, I think that MANTA could hypothetically go to the price of $20, because as the old saying goes, a high tide raises all ships. As the crypto space does well, as, altcoins start doing well, I think MANTA could very well join that ride. And here's the thing. It's not like we have to really wait that much longer anyways, because usually as a worst case scenario based off of history, altcoins, they've been known to peak, again, as a worst case, around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event, a year and a half. And the last Bitcoin halving event happened back in April. So a year and a half from then is basically around a year from right now, because it's October 2025. So it's actually not that much longer anyways. Now, granted, could MANTA peak sooner? Sure, we just never really know. But again, as a worst case, like a year doesn't seem so bad. But anyways, regardless of whatever the time frame is, I'm dollar cost averaging. So anytime an income, I'm acquiring, I'm holding, and I'm just waiting. That's it. I don't day trade. I don't use leverage. I don't swing trade. Because the way I take a look at it is that it's basically just a waiting game. But, besides that point, I can't control anything else, right? So again, it's just a waiting game. It could happen sooner. It could happen later. I can't control when it happens. But what I can control, again, is accumulating. So then when it does rise, hypothetically, I won't miss out on it. That's the way I take a look at it. That's why I'm staying bullish when it comes to MANTA, still dollar cost averaging. And again, at the price of $20 during this bull run, that right there wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And feel free to become a channel member if you want to get a prioritized response from me, which I think is awesome. Also, on top of that, you can use these like cool stickers or badges. Again, if you want to become a channel member, feel free to do that. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.